Notting Hill Carnival is certainly a headline-grabbing event, often for the right reasons, but also often for the wrong reasons. Violent incidents have been condemned once again after 8 stabbings marred the end of Bank Holiday Monday. Mark Rowley, head of the Met, says most people had a fantastic time, but also expressed concern over the incidents committed by a small number of very dangerous people. And Sadiq Khan, the mayor, says the carnival is integral to the fabric of the city, and that its current location in North Kensington and Notting Hill remains its home. Yet this last point has become one of a debate that could even rear its head at the ballot boxes. The chair of the Met Police Federation, Ken Marsh, says his colleagues have become punchbags at the event, with ravaging gangs from outside the capital coming to Notting Hill to cause harm, distress and fear, and he's called for it to move. And then there's Khan's biggest opponent, Conservative mayoral candidate Susan Hall, and she agrees. But would that work logistically, and would the foundations of Carnival be able to withstand such a move? The Carnival's roots are tied to the Notting Hill area in the late 50s and early 60s, location of the UK's first widespread race riots, which happened in 1958. A year later, a Caribbean cultural celebration was televised on BBC. This event then moved outdoors in 1966, and the Carnival's first sound system arrived in 1973, around the time that it rapidly grew. The Carnival has since remained a hugely important pillar of London's and Britain's culture. And a carnival, by many definitions, is about the reversal of social roles and the suspension of social norms, something that it clearly stands for today. Yet ever since the event began, for all the positives, there's been trouble as well. The 70s saw the carnival marred by riots, press coverage focused on the disorder, and for a while it looked like it might get banned. But the party continued, and here we are nearly 50 years later. And after a 2-year COVID cool-off, the carnival returned with a bang in 2022, an estimated 2 million people descending on the Notting Hill streets. But amid the party, troubling stories rose to the top. Reports of a crowd crush that left police fearing another Hillsborough, at least 60 police officers injured, and the tragic murder of Takeo Nembard. And the headlines this week are not dissimilar from last year, focusing on troubling incidents as well. 8 stabbings, 6 police officers bitten, and 1 sexually assaulted. In the wake of troubling pictures and videos seen from this year's carnival, the Home Office have announced new measures to ban the sale and use of so-called zombie knives and machetes. Carnival organisers deplore all acts of violence, of course, saying those responsible have nothing to do with the celebrations. They pointed out ONS stats that show a wider problem: 12,786 knife offences in London in the last 12 months. Critics of the carnival, of course, have come out of the woodwork, using these incidents to attack the event's existence. There's an important, possibly polarising question to be asked here. When 2 million people come to party and to revel, can you expect any less? 308 arrests were made this year. Going on the rough estimate of 2 million people attending, that's 1.54 arrests per 10,000 people. By comparison, another event taking place this weekend was Creamfields, a festival up in Cheshire. 70,000 people in attendance, 118 arrests made. That works out at much higher, 16.8 arrests per 10,000 people. Perhaps an event more aligned with the founding values of Notting Hill should be used for comparison, let's say Glastonbury. This year, 36 arrests, 210,000 in attendance, a much more comparative 1.71 arrests per 10,000. So, Notting Hill Carnival isn't inherently any more criminal or dangerous than Glastonbury, and is far less so than one of the UK's other biggest organised and ticketed festivals. So don't move it, it's fine and safe just as it is. Well, of course, it's not quite that simple. 99 of the 118 arrests at Creamfields were drug-related. Meanwhile, Notting Hill Carnival had 8 stabbings on Monday alone. Had that happened at Creamfields, it would also have made massive headlines, and fingers would be pointed at the event security. But with the carnival, fingers can't really be pointed at anyone other than obviously the criminals themselves. The carnival, it's unique. There's no private security, no ticketing. It lacks entry gates with searches. And of course, there'd be no point trying that. To properly secure the site, you'd have to get all of the residents out of their homes. Hypothetically, if you were to move the carnival, where would it go? Realistically, nearby Hyde Park is the only candidate, and a carnival review group looked into precisely this in the early 2000s, but the idea was canned, concerned that a Hyde Park event would overshadow the original street carnival. With talks of a move in the news once again, that point remains as relevant as ever. By removing Notting Hill Carnival from Notting Hill, do you risk destroying the entire cultural significance of what the event has come to be? Or are the skeptics right, and that the event has become a victim of its own massive success? Let us know what you think in the comments.